Welcome, everybody. I'm glad to see you again, as always. Good to be here. Good to have all of you here. Uh, to start off this week, I actually was just going to open it up a little and see if anybody had any updates they wanted to give or topics they wanted to cover before we go into questions. And otherwise, we'll just go into questions. Anybody that would like to go first?
Questions.
Fair enough. All right. Well, oh, Beetle Dude. Oh, and he remuted. All right, well, then we're going to go into some questions. Let's do it. All right. So, the first question for this week
Oh, Beetle
is.
said, hold up. He's
Oh,
fixing his mic.
oh, 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 oh no.
Hi, guys. I guess I don't really have much to say update-wise, so I'll go away. But we're still working on everything, doing all the things.
Where did everybody get their little profile pictures on here? Like the fox one and the beetle one, the bull ones. You guys all
Here
look
is.
so cool.
I feel
Y'all
like we
need.
missed a meeting or something.
The secret club.
Mini,
Sorry.
one of our
Still have the
community
same
members.
silly dream catcher for the last 2 years. Anyway, Beetle, are you ready? Is your mic working now?
I think so.
All
I was
right.
trying to get my fancy mic hooked up, so technical difficulties. Yeah, if we're just doing updates, I think I have a similar answer to Hubert. We're just plugging away on a ton of stuff. I don't know how recently. I don't know if last week you mentioned, but we're making pretty good progress on the bazaar. So that's progressing really well. Excited about that feature in general and just the kind of new element it'll bring to trading in general and setting the stage for future items as well. Which we've been having a lot of conversations about equipment is also. So they go a little bit hand in hand, along with just general trading improvements. So really looking forward to that. I myself have been neck deep in combat system coding, and that's going well also. Just trying to push forward. We should have some nice quality of life updates coming soon-ish, and lots of other things that are going on kind of at the same time. So it's a little bit of a juggling act, just trying to keep everything up in the air and keep it moving forward and trying to get some cool new features out as quickly as possible. So yeah, those are the big things that are happening on the application side. Lots of great stuff. I'm lucky that I get to see all the new art backgrounds and hear all the new music, and just I don't know. I'm stuck between just wanting to share it with everybody and having to keep it quiet for a minute. So excited to reveal all that new stuff soon and get that out to people. So yeah, that's what's up with me. Yeah, but yeah, Hubert said it. The art team has been doing awesome things. Just plugging away, lots of stuff going on.
Beetle's just out here hardcore teasing an alpha drop.
You know it.
Fox? Maybe. Nope. I'd seen Fox on mute, but then he went back on mute. All right. Well, we will jump into some questions then, and I will just make everybody talk a little later. So the first question is going to be a Hubert question. Are we planning to run regular stone and greater stone recipes through the stone carver?
Good question. So that is something we've been discussing lately. We do have some plans for like how those would be rewarded outside of the stone carver, but there's also been some discussions about ways to get them that way as well. But we don't have anything to announce at this point. There's still some things to kind of finalize and agree upon. So it is a topic that we are discussing for sure recently, though. So maybe some more news in the future. But as I've kind of been a broken record and saying, like, we are trying to stay laser focused on the specific things we're working on right now, just so we can get more content out and then move on to the next thing. So anything we do would still be a little bit of a ways in the future after the bazaar and a couple other things. So.
Thank you. All right, so this is a question that might be kind of a combo between Hubert and Beetle, at least. And there are a couple parts to it, so I'm going to take them one part at a time. So talking about power-ups, the first part of the question I'm going to do is why, when you go to lower a power-up and allocate it for less heroes than you are currently allocating it for, right now you need to cancel the entire power-up instead of just removing a group. Is there a particular reason for that setup?
There is, though I am not prepared to really say exactly what it was. What I can say about the power up system is although it can be a little bit clunky in how some things work, like that specific thing, it was all designed with considering as many edge cases as we possibly could to prevent exploitation. And also to reduce the logic required to handle some of these things. And that was one. I think it was the logic that would be involved to do that, and the checks that were required, I think, were considered to be such that it was just too much to add in, I think, and we thought it was be more efficient to just do the cancel and then re-add again later. Of course, that does mean like I think a 24-hour wait on most of the power-ups to get them back on again. So it is a little bit clunky. I acknowledge that it was by design. There were a lot of edge cases that we were considering with that system, and we wanted to make sure it was as tight as possible in terms of like any possible exploits. So I guess sorry for the the clunkiness, but it was kind of necessary in a lot of the cases anyway.
Yep, makes sense. Got to keep things as optimized as they can be. All right, the second part of that question is it looks like some people have talked about basically they get a hero transferred to them. That hero still has a power up on the old wallet, which then means that it cannot get that power up on the new wallet. That was hard to say for me. So hero transfers, power up on old wallet, can't get power up on new wallet. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so that is kind of an unintended bug. The smart contracts are actually set up so that either the previous owner or the current owner can remove any heroes that are in that state. But it looks like we have an issue somewhere in our front end API setup that maybe is preventing that from working appropriately. So we are looking into that, and hopefully we can get a fix turned around before too long. I don't know, Beetle, if you wanted to add any more.
Yeah, we just had that surfaced maybe a day and a half ago. So something that we'll be looking into actively, and it sounds like it's probably just a bug that's popping up. So yeah, just gotta review it and get to the root of the problem and try to get a fix out for it.
Awesome. I do appreciate it. And then it might have been a part of this question, but even if not, it's a related topic, so let's touch on it for a second. Is the reasoning behind the hero slot cooldown on the power ups?
Yeah, so that is there another kind of going back to like exploits and worrying about edge cases. If that cooldown didn't exist, then there wouldn't really be much to stop people from just having one charge of those power ups, like the experience one for just 6 heroes, and then assigning them to 6 heroes, going and questing with them, and then removing them and adding another group of 6, and then continuing that way. So very exploitable if we didn't have that cooldown. So that's the reason why it's there.
Good deal, Fox. It looks like you might be talking, but if so, I can't hear you. At least I don't know if others can.
I can't hear him.
Yep, Fox. If you're there, we can't hear you.
Doing Morse code with his highlights.
He's trying to signal he's in the dungeon. Oh,
Oh,
Can you hear me now? Anything? Nothing?
Yep.
we can hear you, Fox.
All right, cool. Sorry, mic issues, I guess. But yeah, I was just going to say, Hubert's really good at identifying those exploits prior to them happening and sort of planning ahead. So a lot of this is really kudos to him on these, because he's like, wait a minute, this means someone could do this or that. So yeah, sometimes it's a little weird, and you're like, why is it like that? And that's why he's already thought about all those exploits.
Yes, most definitely. That's a crucial part of the design as well. Is how could it be taken advantage of, and how do we make sure that it's not? So the next question is, how probable is it that DFK will get another subnet on Avalanche?
I guess I have a couple thoughts on this. Probably also Magnus might, maybe Dreamer or others. I don't know, but we have sort of talked about it a lot, because as we grow and as we scale, like we're sort of at the block limit currently, like for gas, and there's a bunch of different things that like we could do to sort of like address that. One of them obviously is expanding to other chains and splitting up sort of like what we do across a bunch of chains. Another one is to like optimize our contracts and have it use less gas, or sort of like refactor things so that you don't end up having to do as many transactions or something like that. All of these are really good problems to have, and we have sort of a history of having us break chains a little bit. So yeah, they're good problems to have. We have talked about subnets. I had a panel I hosted at Avalanche about that, and about how there's other things out there that are able to scale to like hundreds of thousands of transactions per second, which is really cool. There's just all kinds of opportunities out there for that sort of tech on the Avalanche system, but also on other chains as well. So we're sort of looking at options. There's a lot of others that want to work with us and that want us to come to their chain. And so we're trying to see what's the best fit for us right now. But it is a thing that we have considered and have actually talked a lot about. And we'll see. I guess I won't say for sure one way or another if we will end up doing that or not, but it is a thing we have considered.
Yeah, I'll add to that Avalanche's technology is really cool, and they have the kind of like baked in ability to add another like parallel chain inside a subnet. So subnet's kind of like a container, and then you can have any number of blockchains inside of it as long as you can your hardware can support that. So that's an option, as well as the potentially like make another chain inside of the DFK chain subnet to kind of split the load across those two. So yeah, definitely some cool options even with within the existing DFK subnet. Sorry, Dreamer, go ahead.
No, you're good. I think just to add on to that, from like a high level strategy perspective, there's a few reasons why we even have multiple chains. One of them is kind of business continuity and making sure if there's a catastrophic event with the chain that we would have other options. And we've seen that pay off already in the last year. But another really strong reason is our long-term desire to attract not only players to DeFi Kingdoms, but other games and protocols, and really allow DeFi Kingdoms to be an experience that expands like past a certain chain or ecosystem. And people can not only play the native game, they can maybe play some other games with collaborations as we've been working on, as well as use other services like in-game bridging, which isn't ours, but feels native to the user. Really wants, maybe it's a little bit harder in the bear market, but really want to continue to lay that foundation. And expanding to other chains helps that. If we were to look inside our already existing ecosystem in Avalanche, there would need to be a really good reason. Maybe that reason is our technology for our own subnet needs another chain, as Magnus just mentioned, is possible, adding another chain like in that container of the subnet. Or maybe there's another subnet that's well-funded and has a good ecosystem and is attracting a lot of awesome people, and we want to work with them. In that event, we would consider it as well. But really, I think to answer that question, we need to make sure that it's adding to business continuity planning, it's adding to the overall ecosystem, and it makes like financial sense, because although it's great to be on multiple chains, there always need to be considered like incentives that will support the ongoing release of all of our new features, the testing, the deployment, and managing of all the contracts. 2 chains is already a lot, and we do want to be on more over time at a good pace, and we do want to make sure it benefits our tokenomics. So whether that's outside of the Avalanche ecosystem or within the subnet like universe that they're building, I think we're open to all of it.
I'll also just add a note that even outside of a completely new realm or something like that on other chains, there's other opportunities for using other subnets for specific use cases within just the Crystal Veil realm itself. So, for example, we could potentially create a subnet just for questing or something like that, and have that be split off to another chain and help with some of the gas costs there. So that's a thing that we've considered as well. As Dreamer said, there's a ton of reasons why we're on multiple chains, and we are very, very intentional about that. We have a lot of others that have reached out and that we're currently talking with about those exact things. So yeah, it's an exciting world to be in. There's a lot of good tech, and we're hard at work trying to figure out the best things to do for it. So especially within subnets, there's really, really cool opportunities with like the Move language, which I'm actually have been sort of looking into a lot recently, that I'm excited about. So I'll just say that and not say much more, because that would get into dangerous territory. But yeah, I'll just say we are looking at it.
Yeah, I appreciate us not going too far down that rabbit hole, but yeah, we're putting in the work there. The other piece is, we talk about the Bazaar coming out, which is really awesome for everybody within DeFi Kingdoms. But if we're talking to people new and they say, hey, what features are coming out? And we say Bazaar, they're kind of lost. They don't know what that is, but it's really awesome technology and we're really proud of it. Another presence on other chains could be whether like a gamified outpost where we take some things that make sense and launch it there, or we're even considering like taking some of the technology and making it more usable for others, especially on the subnet space, where each subnet, it's their own chain. Are they going to have their own dedicated DEX in every subnet? Or would it work great for them to have a version of the Bazaar accessible to them that still is overall beneficial to the brand and the overall presence, without us requiring to like build out a whole realm? So on the business side, we're thinking about leveraging our presence and our partnerships more, not only with future realms, expanding our technology and being mindful of that, but new things we could try to get more ROI for things already built, if that makes sense. But Bolon, back over to you. We probably all said more than the asker of the question was looking for, but hopefully that was helpful.
It was a good question. It really was.
No, it was definitely a good question, and I don't think we can ever say more than the asker's looking for because they want all the info. So I don't think anybody will be mad about a little extra context. Speaking of good questions, I actually also really like this next question. Thoughts? Will DFK need its own DEX in the future? Obviously a question for down the road, but curious of thoughts on the feasibility for future expansions of potentially using a DEX on the destination chain, especially because we would have the bazaar in place.
Yeah, I can start with this one and invite others to add comments. At this point, it'd be all speculation, but what we know is that a traditional like AMM style DEX that we have been using, it's a lot easier for like high frequency trading. There is the downside of having to look at like the price impact relative to the size of the overall like staked amount of the LPs. So there are some downsides there, and also you really can't like put in an order and then just leave it unless you go through another either overlay service or like an option vault of sorts. But it's not really there in just our normal existing Uniswap fork DEX. The bazaar is going to introduce some fun things where you can place buy and sell orders and identify kind of what you want from it and leave it until it's filled or until somebody cancels it. That's really cool. However, the amount of time to actually go through, if you're doing like 20, 50, 100 trades a day or a week, I think people are going to find that the bazaar is not going to be as of interest. If there's somebody that wants to set a bunch of limits once a week and then see how they play out, then they're really going to like it. So it doesn't necessarily cannibalize the primary use of the DEX. And it's also kind of meant for lower liquidity things. It's really hard, the existing DEX, to really have efficient trading of all of like stamina potions and materials and gold and everything. It's going to be incredible on the bazaar. But just like buying and selling jewel or crystal or jade, maybe people will be so active on the bazaar that there will be a ton of options to buy and sell, and that activity will grow over time. Yeah, it could be that it uses more. We're going to wait and see. But theoretically, I think that more active traders of just like the main power tokens are going to probably transact in jewel, jade, and crystal, more so on the traditional DEX. And then likely all of the other like game tokens that maybe have less liquidity or not an incentivized pair, or are just looking to set it and leave it kind of a thing, will use the bazaar. So it could be that they will likely both be successful and active, but we're kind of open to see just how well it works. If we were to take that technology and launch it on a different chain, for example, if we were to have to go and like list a bunch of like jewel or other things on that chain, and that's the only source of that token on that chain, I imagine that's going to be a lot of upkeep just to like quote unquote make the market. So I imagine that there will always be a need for both style DEXs to cater to various participants and their trading needs. But I'll pause. Any other initial responses to that question? If not, I'll just add that another option is as well, like on future chains. We've talked to some recently that actually aren't looking to have people launch their own DeFi protocols. They just want to have their own. So just one DEX for their whole chain. So we started brainstorming, okay, if we were to consider that approach, what would we do? The DEX is so important to DeFi kingdoms and the gamified NFTs portion and the questing. Maybe we could gamify the front end, have like a split, and then still have kind of incentives flow through in a different way where we could leverage an existing DEX. That's always a possibility. It's not really our primary focus right now, but as the space evolves and we see new things come out with different ways to game and trade and do things, we'll always try to be on like the forefront of innovation and make the best experience. So whether or not that includes us having our native DEX in the future, not really clear now to say yes or no. Just say that our plan hasn't changed. It's integral into the game, and the bazaar is meant to add value to that, not cannibalize it.
Yeah, I'll just also add a reminder that, right now we use a Uniswap V2 fork for our decks because that was the most recent V. But they've put out V3. So Uniswap is also always evolving. So just keep in mind as well that, a dex doesn't always look like what a dex currently looks like. So there's also considerations there.
Yeah, and I've heard some pretty cool ideas from Magnus actually as he was looking into V3 and even more information that came out on V4 on how we might be able to utilize some new features there in future like DeFi crossovers. I won't spoil it or say it because we're not working on it. It's just brainstorming, and then it'll set an expectation of when. But it's a good point, Bolon. There's always new technology coming out, and I think we're always going to be trying to find realistic ways to enhance the overall experience using that technology. Good question.
All right. Next question. Hubert. Thoughts on allowing burning of X number of Shavas runes to produce a Moksha rune?
Yeah, that is something we've been talking about. It actually kind of ties into that previous question about stones as well. Again, there's one specific topic that I don't want to get into too much at the moment, but it kind of depends on some more discussion internally, and then once we get to that point, we can discuss it more. But I, in general, do like the idea of having trade ups to the next thing, but it needs to be done in a way that is carefully thought out. So once you connect the two things, then suddenly the rarity of one is tied to the rarity of the other, and we need to make sure that we don't suddenly make something that was intended to be rare way less rare because of that. So, or at least there's a good cost to it. So yeah, it definitely a good question. Definitely something we've been discussing. More to come in the future on that topic.
Thank you. Let's see. So a lore-related question. There's a lot of mini lore sprinkled throughout the game currently. Any thoughts on having a dedicated lore crafter to kind of put all of that together and then look towards producing more?
Yes, indeed. So yeah, I mean, we have established interim lore committee, and we've made some progress on some interesting elements, which we'll be introducing hopefully soon-ish to kind of set the stage for what the game proper will look like in the short term. But we do have on the roadmap definitely have getting a dedicated lore person as a priority. Ideally we'd be able to get someone who's written for games before. I think we have maybe a few connections that we can explore on that side of things. But yeah, definitely not a huge priority right this minute, as we're just trying to get to a spot where we're going to be producing that kind of content. But I think we do have a solid baseline ready to go that will kind of carry the story once we do have a dedicated writer. So yeah, it's a great question. It is on the roadmap and on our minds. Just want to make sure that we are in a spot where it makes sense to just be producing content like that. So we're a lot closer to that point now than we were even a few months ago. So excited to be looking forward to that in the future.
Awesome. Let's see. Question for Fox. Thoughts on adding a season-long rental market for heroes and pets for Duel?
Okay, had to figure out that mute button. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, yeah. So I think that's a great use case for rentals, but I wouldn't want the rental system to be just relegated to duels. there's like so much there that we can do with it, like having the ability to run quests and other type things like with combat and stuff in the future. Even in the future, I could see there being a thing for like renting any kind of NFTs, pets, equipment, things like that. But what I would want to do for that is build a system for rental in general, and then have it work with duels rather than building something one-off just for duels, because that's just so widely applicable. And the cool thing about it is we could set it up such that you don't actually have to hold that NFT in your wallet in order to be renting it. You could actually just basically rent it and then have access to it for the purposes of like duels or for questing or for anything else that we have in our game, which means that there's more security involved with that. And then you can basically just not have the risk of losing your assets and things like that too. So that's what I'm excited about there, and I think that's going to be the way forward. We've actually talked about starting to build out some of that system for other related features, and haven't started on it yet, but we have a pretty good plan in place of how I think that would work. So yeah, that's how I see it going down. It's not something that'll be for like season 5 or anything, but that is one of the use cases for rentals.
Awesome. Let's see. The next question for future pet gene rerolls, so the combat and crafting genes. Do we anticipate that everyone would need to unequip their pet prior to doing that reroll?
No, I don't think we will need unequipping to happen. We did have the requirement of not being equipped for the initial reroll because pets at that point didn't have any functionality, so we didn't want people equipping pets without any functionality on them. So, but that's no longer the case. So yeah, definitely want to make it as convenient as possible.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll make it a lot easier. Let's see. Is there any plan to incentivize expeditions over repeated manual questing?
So I guess one thing I can say about expeditions is that in terms of like incentivization or like efficiency, it is set up to be or we're planning for it to be kind of an automatic system and how it works. So that kind of cuts out the time loss and like doing the transactions yourself and timing everything. So I think there's efficiency gains there. We'll have more to say once we get it closer to being complete. So I'll just say that for now.
One additional question on that front, without pushing for too much, but it is something that comes up pretty often. People with large quantities of heroes wondering if they will be able to largely consolidate their heroes with expeditions. Thoughts on that front?
I would say likely yes. There will still be cases where, like I think with gardening and mining, that it won't be possible just because of the way those are set up. But I think for the other quests, though, it will be much easier to consolidate there.
It'll probably also be easier to manage larger amounts of heroes, all else equal, I would think as well. Correct, Hubert?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Thank you both for answering my vague question with vague answers. I do appreciate it. And there will be more info coming, obviously, on expeditions. I just don't want to say anything too much until it's a little farther along. Let's see. Oh, SBD's not up here. I was gonna ask him the Badger pet question, which he did answer in chat. I was just gonna make him answer it again. Let's see. Magnus, any updates on gas optimizations?
Yeah, sure thing. So, I'm currently working on some unannounced combat related items, and then gas optimizations is next on the list as soon as I finish that up. Basically, just don't want to hold up the entire development flow for all the API and front end folks that need to contribute to this feature as well. So, but as soon as that's knocked out, I'll have 100% focus on gas optimizations. And I'll just say generally, we've kind of in doing the most recent, like the first round of gas optimization changes, we've kind of found some ways to apply it to other contracts as well that we'll kind of start integrating slowly. So it's not just going to, the optimizations won't just stop at Quest Core. Definitely all of our contracts could benefit from the things we've learned for this piece. So yeah, that's the next item on my list. And also I would expect to see some minor optimizations on some other contracts as well.
Awesome. Thank you much for that update. Real quick, going to circle back for a question that popped up in chat. How do we foresee level ups working with expeditions? Will they need to remove the heroes from the expeditions to see if they're ready for level up? How will that flow to work?
So they should be able to see that they're ready to level up. As far as like expeditions is also considered questing, so you can't level up while you're in the middle of questing. So they would still need to be pulled out of that state to level up, but or yeah, just not be questing to level up. But yeah, hopefully that kind of answers the questions. We have some thoughts on some additional things we can do, but it likely won't be at launch.
But the plan is for it to not be like a mystery grab of like, find out if it's ready. You would be able to tell that it had full XP.
Yes, yeah, you'd be able to. I mean, to an extent. I mean, it depends on the results of the quest. Like, anyway, it's kind of hard to explain right now without talking a lot about our plan design. So, but in general, you should be able to know when things are getting close, and then when they are at their full XP as well. But yeah, and until we get that more defined and out for you guys to see or closer, I think I'll just say that. Hopefully that's okay.
Yep, that'll work. Appreciate it. All right. Let's see. Actually, this might be another Hubert question, maybe some others as well. Do we have a rough idea of how the final PvE combat system will look? Will it be primarily off-chain and then a transaction at the end to finalize? Or will every action be on-chain? Some other mix between the two? What are our thoughts there?
So yeah, it's going to be using the same engine we are using for PvP. So combat itself will take place off-chain, but there will be transactions before and after for like getting into the fight and then getting out of the fight as well. But the second transaction would actually be handled by our API. So as far as the user is concerned, it would just be like an initial start transaction.
Nice. Thank you much. Let's see. Any thoughts on crap? I'm gonna have to pronounce this, and I've never known how to pronounce it, and I've avoided ever saying it out loud. AAVE. Ave. I don't know. But any thoughts on NFT collaboration with Ave?
That's a very broad question. I don't know if we should even answer that one. Dreamer might have an idea there, but basically, you've seen other protocols that sort of have their sort of approach to like lending in for the tokenomics and stuff like that. We haven't done any of that yet, and I don't know what a timeline could be, or if we want to consider that. There's a lot of risk involved with that type of stuff as well. We saw on like Harmony, for example, some of the protocols that were doing that type of stuff. got hit very hard from the bridge hack because then they had a lot of bad debt, for example. So it is risky. I do like how they do on-chain governance and things like that. So there's probably things we could learn and see, but that's all I'll say on that for now.
Nice. Dreamer said in chat that he was no longer able to hear people, so he was gonna drop out and try to reconnect. So he should be back momentarily. Let's see. Excuse me. So kind of a general question, I guess. So they're saying that they're surprised that Profession 10 or Skill 10, sorry, old habits die hard. Skill 10 quests were that the only requirement was the skill level. So curious on incentivizing people to level their heroes, which I think we've talked a little bit about. Future stuff will probably, have a little bit different requirements. But Hubert, any thoughts on that front?
Yeah, so we have had this question before. The kind of plan is right now that's the only requirement that there is just having the skill level. But in the future, once we have travel out, you would have to have your heroes travel to those places, and they're also planning to have some degree of PvE requirements as well to gain access to certain things. So there may be like those skill 10 or skill 20 and above quests would be hidden behind one or more fights that you'd have to do before you'd be able to participate in those quests. So level 1 heroes would have trouble with that. So I think that will kind of solve the problem in the long term. Short term wise, I mean, heroes do a better job at their questing if they're higher level. That's just how it's set up. So not leveling up does kind of limit how many rewards you get to an extent. So I guess that's the only thing in place at the moment.
Yeah, I used to play FF11 a lot, and I used to be a goldsmith, and I remember having to sneak into like Freet's Cauldron, this like super high level place, and have invisible cast on me and stuff like that, and I would just die if anything saw me and attacked me. But that's sort of like the stuff that I like about the system is you don't have to be necessarily high level in order to do high profession level quests. I think that makes sense thematically. Like you could be a really good forager and just not really that strong of a hero otherwise. But as Hubert said, you're not going to have as much success in those higher level quests because it does look at your stats a lot of times too, and those stats can be improved from leveling up. And also you'll have areas that you have to travel to, and those areas might be hard or even somewhat dangerous to get to. So those are things that will for sure impact it.
Very nice. Thank you both. Let's see, another question came in. Very long-term question. Do you foresee a future where we don't have to confirm every transaction on MetaMask, maybe something like a DFK wallet? I'll actually kick that one off if y'all don't mind, and then you're welcome to add to it. I would just say we have been doing a lot of research on wallets. You'll probably be seeing some things come out later. Not us making a wallet. Let's just clarify that up front. No. But as far as like having it more permissioned to where the users don't necessarily have to sign every transaction, that is something that we've also been looking into. There are some regulatory concerns there, because if a third party is able to sign transactions for you, there is an argument that they become a money transmitter because they are moving funds for you. So it's definitely something that we have looked into, something that we will keep looking into. But there are some outside concerns that weigh in there as well. Fox?
Yeah, thanks. I'd say we're actually a lot. Well, okay, I'm not going to say anything about that, but I'll say that there's some things we've started to like investigate and experiment with where you could create like a session. And we already sort of have that in our app right now, where you can actually log in with your like MetaMask and create a session, and that's actually planned to be used for a lot of things in our app, like storing things in our Firebase client-side databases and things like that, for like event history and stuff that we're sort of looking into, and also in the future, chat might play into that. Another use case is basically having a session for your signer, basically, for your wallet. So then that would allow you to basically, after you log in, you can have a short-lived, maybe 30 to 60 minutes or something of like, you don't have to sign a transaction. It can just automatically happen when you submit it, without having to have anything like a MetaMask thing over in your window that would pop up. But you would still be in control of your assets and in control of your keys, and it'd be a very like non-custodial approach to it. So that's really interesting to me, and that's something that I would like to see for sure eventually in our game.
Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll add something to that. This is just a really good example of how, as a team, we really try and stay as innovative as we can. I mean, we've been looking at solutions for this basically since Clayton, talking to different partners and staying close to partnerships that are producing solutions. So anyway, I just wanted to point out like there's so many partnerships like we have on file that we continually follow up with. People that are developing things, people we develop things with that you don't see. And the exciting thing is once they come all together, they're thoroughly thought out, they're safe, they're already audited. So anyway, I just wanted to use that as an example of a lot of things that are happening in the background and how the team continues to go up in really amazing ways because of how thorough they are.
Most definitely, yeah. I know I've mentioned it on other AMAs in the past, but onboarding is a huge focus of ours, making it easier to get in, easier to play, just generally smoothing that experience out. And wallets are definitely a big part of that. So it's definitely something that is on our minds. But to Sunbear's point, it's also the thing that holds your funds. So anything we do is going to need to be completely secure and safe for users. So definitely a lot of research that goes into that portion as well, and making sure that it's the right thing. But no, that's a great question. I really like that question. So I have one last question, and then we'll do closing comments and wrap up. But there's a question that the community has just really been demanding that I ask, so I'm going to throw it out there. So currently, when you go to hatch eggs, there is a hatch mode known as Gaia's Boon. But apparently, a lot of people's cellular devices like to autocorrect that to Gaia's boob. So there's a community request to rename Gaia's Boon to Gaia's Boob. Any thoughts on that?
Sounds like we're just embracing the boob entirely, the boob language and everything else. Make it happen, Beetle. Just kidding.
I've already got a branch up. I just need to press the button.
Wait, is Gaia's boob like man boobs? No, okay.
Well, Gaia is a female goddess, right?
Yeah, it was a bad dad joke. I'm sorry.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I'm a
There's
dad.
no such thing as a bad dad joke. All dad jokes are automatically good. All right. Sorry. Anyway, we're gonna move on from that question, and we are gonna go to. Oh, go ahead, Dreamer.
I was just gonna say, if we didn't answer the question, we're not gonna do that. It's funny, but we don't want to turn people away or turn people off from naming in the game. So I'm just gonna give a professional, real answer real quick. It's a funny autocorrect, and I'm happy we addressed it since it's funny in the chat and people asked. But yeah, keeping it safe for long-term mass adoption and everybody that come in that may not react to such a name in a positive way. There, sorry, I'm a party pooper.
No. Thank you for for actually answering the question, unlike the rest of us. Cool.
I
So,
support this message.
so we'll hit some closing comments, and then we will call it a day. Fox, you're already unmuted. You got any closing comments you want to throw out there?
Just that, I'm really excited to still be working hard on all the things, and I've been spending a lot of time on the bazaar. That's been sort of like a large part of my time, and also season 5 of Duels, which is around the corner. Have some cool ideas for that. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun to really be working here on this team on this really fun project and learning as I go, and it's great. So just want to say thanks for the hard work of the team. Thanks for the support of the community, and see you guys next week, I guess. That's all for me. Over to whoever's next.
Nice. Let's see. Nobody unmuted to volunteer, so let's go Sunbear.
Hey, thanks. Hey, everybody. I think I'm going to stay in the same vein that I was before. I was thinking about some of the questions that came up this week, and the questions that come up every week about the things that you all want, that we want, and today briefly about expeditions and rentals. Again, things that we've been looking at and researching and talking to folks about for a long time. And again, another way that really demonstrates that we only build when we build it well and we build it right and we make sure that it's safe. And so just another reason that I am attached to this team, that I follow this team, that I'm dedicated to this team. And just another thing too, just I think you hopefully can see in the AMAs lately, like we're having fun. We're having fun as a team. It's not always the easiest in a bear market to have fun and to continue to build, but somehow this team continues to do that, and I love that about it. Thanks.
Most definitely. Let's go Beetle Dude.
All right, I got a double unmute. Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned a lot in my original update, but just have a ton of exciting stuff that we're pushing forward on. For me, as as a gamer, and as someone who's done game development in the past, I'm just super excited for where we're at right now, and what kind of the opportunities on the horizon are. So just for me personally, just super excited about the direction we're heading, and lots of cool stuff coming, and we're going to try to make it as fun and as exciting as we can for everyone. So appreciate the patience and appreciate the support, and we'll just keep building away and making great stuff. So thanks, everybody.
Hubert.
Hey, yeah, I feel like everyone said everything already, so I don't know what I can contribute to this, but like I just echo what everyone else has said. Having a fun time doing all the work that we're doing. We are really getting into it now with the game design portion of things, with the combat system. We're making progress on the scholar design. Hopefully, we'll have more info on that in the nearest future, but probably not next week. Yeah, I'm just really excited for some of the things that we have coming down the pike. There's a lot of these systems need a lot of time spent just in the process of defining them, but once they're defined, it does shift to a more iterative process, which I've said before in the past. So while it takes a long time to get the initial engine in place, once it's there, it's easier to kind of make things move a little bit faster as we develop further. So looking forward to getting to that point. We're not quite there yet, but we are making a lot of progress. So really excited for the future, and yep, that's all I got.
Are we building the plane while it's flying without an engine? Wow.
That's a beetle. Yeah.
Oops.
I'll I'll just throw out there, don't ape into broken mechanics because it's my tradition. And last but not least, Dreamer. Also, if you want to bullish us, Dreamer.
Oh man. Yeah, I think I'll echo the theme so far. The understanding and support of the community while we're building something real time is greatly appreciated. The excitement that we see on Twitter and in Discord, it's all very helpful. It's not an easy job. I think Fox mentioned that he loves this job and being on this team. But there's a lot of up and downs in Web3, and every day we wake up to new things happening there, and we're trying to build a brand of, regardless of what's happening outside of our ecosystem, we're going to try our best to do a good job as individuals and a team. And I'm really proud of that. People can say whatever they want. They can market things up. They can hype things up. They can do whitelists, and they can raise money saying that they're going to build X, Y, or Z. We're letting our actions speak for us, and hopefully you all see that and feel that, and others will as well, while also learning to leverage the other things in the space. I'm just very proud of everybody up here, and that you don't see behind the scenes, because there are emotions here. It's a deep bear market. There's things going on in the world every day, and regulation and things that like a normal 9-to-5 job wouldn't really be bringing a lot of those quote unquote negatives. But I think we are learning to not only like work through it, but have it energize us in many cases, and look out for each other, and like become a better team. So I'm really happy with the time that we've spent so far. I'm really looking forward to coming together even closer with the community and with the group, and delivering some quality features. Even these AMAs are really quality. The questions that are submitted drive it. If we get lesser questions over time, we might end up doing this like every other week and finding some other way to update people in the meantime. But if you see questions in Discord and others, please post them, because we like to get them and show up and answer them. I would say we talked a little bit today about like looking at other chains and other opportunities, and those discussions are ongoing. This is really an effort to just make sure we're being true to the overall growth, and we're also trying to be creative of how a new chain might be different, or a new realm might be a different approach to look at unique deflationary measures too. Because in the past, the expansion to Avalanche was purely inflationary. So if somebody's out there listening and they're like, man, DFK really needs to be looking at XYZ chain, you could put suggestions like that in the talk site as well. Have you guys looked at this chain? This is why, we as a part of the community like them. So I just want to say I like our connection to the community. I appreciate our team. I really value the relationships that we built across both. And I too am bullish on everything that is coming up. So with that, Bolon, I have bullished us.
Bullish.
Bullish us.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.